point of view, first person perspective. This is how we filmed a $1.45 million penthouse with a special homemade contraption.
Okay, so the first question that we need to answer here is why? Why would we film this expensive listing property, put money towards filming a first-person perspective video? Why would we do that, Joel?
Why would you guys do that?
I know.
It all starts with an idea. I think that's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
As much as it was fun, it was also trying to figure out, can we do this? How are we going to do this? Like trying to problem solve, and instead of focusing so much on camera gear now, we were kind of like MacGyvering this time. So it was definitely a totally new element to our video, where it was more, instead of like Allen keys, it was drill sets, right? So a little different.
Okay, so Joel, you said that you might have gotten a glimpse of the...
I think I had a vision in my head of what this thing looked like.
Exactly.
That had to be mobile, still not too heavy to be on a human head, and take some good shots that way too.
Well, it was heavy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I tell you, it was a beast. So first of all, it started off with being extremely excited to put this thing together. Step one was creating the helmet. We know that if we could execute the immersion of him being in the space with his hands moving around, then we could proceed to the later steps of the idea. Because there's times where Joel, Elijah, and myself will have ideas that are just too far out there, where we have to reel them back in to be like, okay, we have to keep the budget under $2 million here.
We're fishermen at this point with how much we have to reel back.
Oh, exactly. So it first started with us finding a few different helmets. What works, right? We pulled open a snowboard helmet. We had a bike helmet. We have helmets in the corner of the office there for a reason. We started drilling into them, and as soon as we started putting the camera onto it, and we realized that our eyebrows would start to slouch here because it was so much weight on the front part of our head.
It was a lot,
Top heavy.
Exactly, and to really sell that high quality look, we still wanted to use a high quality camera that would still render the colors and the pictures super nice. So we did want to put one of our cinema cameras on top of the head as well.
Low light, as you'll see in the video as well.
Exactly,
Big
low
thing.
lights, pulling the camera out there during the night, like our phones were looking super grainy. But to sell that nighttime mode, it definitely still required somewhat of a camera rig there.
And that's another thing, like as you were saying about finding the right camera, it also boils down to the right lens, because when you talk about a full-size camera, it's different than a phone where you could just put it right up to your mouth. Whereas now you're dealing with this object that's sticking about like half a foot away. So how do you still compress everything to get the full image? And lens choice was another huge thing that we had to overcome.
Yeah, lens choice was a big thing, and the best part about the lens that we use for real estate also doubled as a perfect use case in this, because it doesn't distort the edges of the image. When you have such a wide lens, it starts to turn into like a fisheye, and in this case, we didn't want it to look cheap. We still wanted to...
We weren't going for a 90s hip-hop video.
Exactly. Then we decided next to grab a full face motorcycle helmet.
Right.
But the next problem was that we had a front little mount here that would normally protect your face when you're landing off of your motorcycle or whatnot. So we also have to cut that off. So over there on the side of the porch and on the grass there, we used our Sawzall that I used to use for construction, chopped off the front part of the face there.
It's a good thing we came from different backgrounds before videography, so we had the tools and means to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Joel was like, oh, I got this great idea. Like, why don't we try it at this property? Well, we don't have to. We can always try it on a different mug if we want to try this.
The idea was brought in like spring, summer to do something out in BC at a really nice property and have like the outdoors, the mountains and everything like that. Unfortunately, it didn't come to be, but here, November, December, we're like, we love this idea still months later. So why don't we try and make it happen for the end of the year?
Exactly.
Which is very cool. And might I add, my envision was this thing, okay, he's going to put on the goggles and then it's going to be the tour with the smooth transitions and everything like that. But I think we got talking, be like, that wouldn't be as legit as first person gamer feel, walking around like you're actually in the space. And coming up with the helmet idea was brilliant, because then you're like legitimizing the whole thing of when the goggles come on, you're in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't want to cheat the idea. We wanted to really give it a good shot.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's pretty easy to default to just sticking to the story of putting on the goggles and then switching to other B-roll, which is great, but like we were saying, we did want to push the limits of what a creative listing video could be, and this was our opportunity to do so. So Joel, after tons of drilling, even on the top of the helmet, we had to drill a little hole so that we could put this little quick release mount so that we could be able to take the camera and battery off, because we needed to give our heads a break. Like there was only so long we could keep that on our noggin there. We had some holes in there, quick releases for the cameras. We also had to mount the monitor so that we could actually see what the camera was looking like.
Yeah, to make sure it's quality footage, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in some cases, there's only so much drilling that you could do before the entire helmet becomes Swiss cheese. So in this case, we decided to use Gorilla Tape.
Nice.
To Gorilla Tape the rest of the drilling and the stuff like that. That way we could mount the monitor out there so that Elijah could actually see where his hands are so that he can position them in the right way when he's interacting in the space. And finally, a battery to go on the back that acted as our counterweight and a way to charge.
That's right. I was gonna say, or else it would be like.
It would
So
be
then you're like, in the physics aspect of it, be like, how this need to be positioned or situated on the head, so it actually doesn't like lean or start to slide or anything like that. Yeah, that's very cool.
You don't want to be looking at the ground the whole tour. It's what's in front of you that counts.
Yeah.
Actually, Gorilla Tape isn't even used mainly for filmers. It is just ridiculously strong.
So a very solid adhesive.
It is a very solid adhesive. And we also have gaffer's tape that we use for filmmaking, which is perfect because it doesn't leave residue. It's a really well-built tape and it's strong, but this is just like, I would trust this hanging off of a building. You just latch it on there and you can pull Mission Impossible.
Yeah, gaff tape is meant to be a non-permanent solution. We needed this to not go anywhere because we had scenes where we were looking over an edge and we don't want $6,000 to just disappear. So at the end of the day, we went and made a red helmet black with the amount of Gorilla Tape we used because we were not risking it.
Any way that we wanted to readjust it though.
But I guess when you saw into it or drill into it that much, you're not going to probably repurpose it down the road. So I know that you can just
I would not trust that helmet for anything else.
And know that it's going to be a one purpose and one only now.
Exactly. It is dedicated. If we do another POV tour,
you're set.
We're set.
Okay.
Instantly.
Nice.
So this was so once we finished building it, of course we had to test it out. So we went outside, played some basketball for 10 minutes, just see if we can get the swishes right.
Yeah, we definitely needed a few days to practice with it because of that depth perception. Because the thing is that where the camera isn't exactly where your eyes are going to be. So when we were doing shots like the one that you were just looking at with the light switch, you couldn't really rely on you looking at the light switch and pressing it because the camera may not be seeing your hand. So we needed to be relying on the monitor, but the monitor is 2D, so you don't get that depth in it, right? So there's a few moments and takes that we did where I was trying to click the light switch and looking at the monitor, I was like probably a good foot away from it, and then others where I was like almost broke my finger.
The human perspective to the camera perspective.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, but you don't know that until you play around with it. You do it a couple times, right? That's great.
Yeah.
So I've never seen a more well-dressed biker guy walking around $1 million property, but this is like so cool to watch it come to be, and you guys at home will benefit by seeing all this. And going the extra mile is just like such a small thing. When you look at this, it's truly epitomizes like what is actually going on behind the scenes to give you guys a little bit of entertainment and showcase a property in a way that you've probably never seen it before too.
Yeah, exactly. So we were like the 1-2 team. We had like 15 minutes in there before we had an open house and showing and whatnot for the rest of the day because it was busy in there. And then we had you film the day portions. You pulled it off very well, I must say.
Because I think that we almost had just as much to film of the day portion as we did at night. I think, what would you say, we were in that place for like 3 hours doing the night scene, but it was the first time getting set up and used to it. And then when we did the day scene, we filmed the same amount, but we compressed it into, as you said, like 15 minutes, and we're somehow able to manage to get out the door before the open house.
The efficiency was like 500%.
Oh, yeah.
So you would see Elijah on the B-roll footage of just like running and then. But
Location.
Get to each corner the quick as you
Exactly.
can. Yeah.
Yep.
you gotta get to it.
So one of my favorite parts of the video, and you guys have to watch it, I'm sure you have already, and that's why you're here, but the night transition from day
Yeah.
was like mind-blowing because I knew we were doing it. But a matter of fact that like you pull it off in such a way that it's like, you know, you got to realize, like you guys were saying, that you're there a couple times during the day, a couple times during the night.
Yeah.
And then we have to film like the B-roll office scenes. So there's a lot of back end stuff, a lot of moving parts, but that transition to be like night mode just brought me back to like when I was 10 years old on a game, being like, you see that on the screen and you're like, I have to move my character over here and touch it.
Yep.
And when you touched it, it was just like a new feel. The
Yep.
music changed, the vibe changed, of course the ambiance changed, and the whole unit got flipped upside down. And I think that's going to be just like so cool for people to watch.
We showed up there, we had loose notes as to how we wanted the story and script it, but a lot of the best ideas came from being there in person and asking people for their opinion.
Being in the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that is how we filmed the $1.45 million penthouse listing inside with the POV helmets, with something that we put together with screws, Gorilla Tape, and whatever else we could find around the office.
Yeah.
A lot of sweat, a lot of energy and effort for sure.
A lot of sweat, a lot of tears of joy,
Yeah.
And this is what we came up with. So if you guys like this video, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. If you have anyone in mind that you think would enjoy this, share it away, but we'll see you on the next video.